We're going to move to our closing statements. As agreed, the Prime Minister speaking first at the outset also speaks first at the close. Mr. Rudd.
Thanks very much, David. And thank you, Tony, for participating in the debate this evening. Lifeblood of democracy, sharing ideas, identifying where there's some commonality, and identifying where, in fact, the differences lie and why. Here in Queensland, we've had a bit of experience of the whole question of what it's like to go to an election and not quite know what's going to happen afterwards. I refer to the election of Campbell Newman's government. Campbell Newman's government was very plain prior to the election. They did not go out there and say they were going to sack tens of thousands of public servants, but they did. They sacked 14,000 public servants, including 4,000 health workers. That means a lot for those jobs and those people. They also went about slashing and burning in terms of the health and hospitals budget here in the state. And frankly, on top of that as well, in the schools, I have seen massive cuts into the state education system. So when I talk about jobs, health and education becoming the victim of an incoming government which is not upfront about where it wants to cut, here in Queensland we know a little bit of what that's like. In my community, I constantly run into folks who have had this happen. Hence I go to my second point in summary, which is my challenge to Mr. Abbott earlier in the evening about telling us precisely where his $70 billion worth of cuts would fall. I believe you, the voters, have a right to know that. He has a view about cutting for the future. That's his ideological position. I respect it. But the consequences are a whole bunch of people losing their jobs. 3,000 frontline health workers who currently work for Medicare Local will be gone. And on top of that, you also have a commitment to cut the school kids bonus, which currently goes out there to support 1.3 million Australian families. And they use that to buy books and to buy uniforms when it's actually the toughest time of the year. And on the other hand, we see Mr. Abbott say, I'm not going to give you that detail until the day before the election. I don't think that's right. I think you all deserve to know so that you can make a choice whether you support him or support my approach. The last thing is this. Where it all comes together, I think, is in the big debate on paid parental leave. I think that policy is unaffordable, economically irresponsible, and just unfair. The $1 million person I referred to before, the $1 million male, gets to pick up $5,000, $10,000 worth of cash out of this paid parental leave scheme that Mr. Abbott's putting forward. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair that someone picks up $75,000. I don't think that's fair. So therefore, for the future, we need to know where the cuts will fall and what the future will be of the goods and services tax and what the precise future will be for the Fair Work Act as well. What I'm passionate about is how you build the future, not how you cut for the future. What I'm passionate about is how we build the new jobs and new industries of the future, because the world's changing out there. And how we build the best schools in the future so that your kids can become the techno whizzes of the future, fully able to compete across the world, and to have a world-class health system so that the operating theatres can cope with someone walking in the door. That's what I'm committed to. That's the Australia I want to build.
Prime Minister, thank you. And Mr. Abbott, your closing remarks.
Well, thanks, David, and could I thank everyone here tonight, because I think we have had a good discussion, and I suspect it's been a much better and more lively discussion than we had in Canberra a couple of weeks back. So people won, journos nil, perhaps, but it has been a good discussion. Now, like Mr. Rudd, I want to build for the future, but it's all very well to have aspirations. The real question is, how are you going to achieve them? How are you going to achieve them? And interestingly, Mr. Rudd hasn't told us tonight any of the ways that he intends to do all these things. And the reason why he hasn't told us is because he's actually had 6 years to do it. First as Prime Minister, then as a Foreign Minister, then as a member of the government, then as Prime Minister again, and it just hasn't worked. So if you had your chance and it didn't happen, why should you be given yet another chance? Why should you be given yet another chance? Now, I tell you exactly what I will do. I will scrap the carbon tax. I will scrap the mining tax. We will cut red tape. Yes, we will move the workplace relations pendulum back to the sensible centre. And yes, I've been quite upfront ever since the last election that there will be a reduction of 12,000 by natural attrition in the Commonwealth public sector payroll. No fibs, nothing hidden. I've been quite up front about it. And that's the kind of government that I would hope to lead, one which says what it means and does what it says, not one which is all talk and very little action, and when we have action, it tends to be action that hurts people. That's the kind of government that I don't want to lead. I want to lead a competent, trustworthy government. I was a competent and trustworthy member, senior member of a competent and trustworthy government in the past, and that's what I want to be in the future. That's what my strong team, my strong, united team, want to deliver to the Australian people in the future. The thing that has disappointed me, and perhaps disappointed you in this debate, is that really all Mr Rudd has had to say tonight is a scare against his opponents. Now, surely, after 6 years, you ought to be able to do a bit better than that. Surely, after being Prime Minister for 3 years, you ought to be able to do a bit better than that. If all you've got is a scare, you've got no vision for the future. Now, it's been a great debate. I know lots of other people would have some questions, so I'm going to mingle for as long as I can to talk to anyone who would have liked to have asked a question but didn't get that opportunity. Thank you so much.
Tony Abbott, thank you. And yes, we do invite you both to, thank you, to mingle and talk to as many people as you can. Thank you, gentlemen, both for taking part in tonight. It certainly has been a more lively and feisty at times debate as well. Thanks for your company too. We'll be back same time next week with a People's Forum like this taking place at Rooty Hill in Sydney's West. Tony Abbott has agreed to take part. Prime Minister, we hope you will be there as well. But for now, as we invite you both to shake hands one more time, we'll say good night. Thank you.